In the heart of ancient Rome, where power and politics intertwined like vines on a trellis, there lived a woman whose story defied the very constraints of her time. Imagine a world where every gesture, every whispered word, could tip the scales of destiny, a world where women were often seen as mere chess pieces in the grand game of empires. Yet in this world, one woman dared to stand apart, armed not with sword and shield but with an indomitable spirit and a philosophy that would echo through the ages. This, dear viewers, is the tale of Porcia Cato. The year is 44 BCE. Rome trembles under the growing shadow of Julius Caesar's ambition. Amidst the marble columns and whispered conspiracies, a figure moves with quiet determination. She is Porcia Cato, daughter of the renowned Stoic philosopher Cato the Younger, wife of Marcus Brutus, and a force of nature in her own right. But Porcia was far more than the sum of her illustrious connections. In an era that sought to silence women, she became the living embodiment of Stoic principles, a philosophy often misunderstood in our modern times. Now you might be wondering, a Stoicism? Isn't that just for old privileged white men? Let me stop you right there, for nothing could be further from the truth. Stoicism, at its core, is a universal philosophy, a beacon of wisdom that transcends gender, race, and social standing. It's a way of life that has been embraced by men and women of all backgrounds throughout history and continues to inspire people from all walks of life today. Porcia's story shatters these misconceptions. She shows us that Stoicism is not about emotionless endurance, but about finding inner strength in adversity. It's about standing firm in your convictions when the world seeks to shake you. And most importantly, it's about recognizing the inherent worth and potential in every human being, regardless of gender or social status. So, I ask you, have you ever felt the weight of society's expectations crushing your dreams? Have you ever yearned to find your voice in a world that seems determined to drown it out? If so, then you need to hear about Porcia's journey. Over the next 40 minutes, we'll dive deep into the life of this remarkable woman. We'll explore how she navigated the treacherous waters of Roman politics, found equality in marriage during an age of inequality, and demonstrated her strength in ways that continue to astonish us today. But this isn't just a history lesson. We'll uncover how Porcia's ancient wisdom can illuminate our modern lives. We'll learn to cultivate resilience, value our self-worth beyond societal expectations, and love fearlessly in a world that often seems bereft of courage. So prepare yourselves, dear viewers. We're about to embark on a journey through time. This journey will challenge your preconceptions, inspire your spirit, and transform how you see yourself and the world around you. This is the story of Porcia Cato, the Stoic superwoman who defied an empire. By the end of this video, you'll understand why her legacy continues to resonate, inspiring people of all genders and backgrounds. Are you ready to meet Porcia and discover Stoicism's true inclusive spirit? Then let our journey begin. Early life and background. Let's step back and look at where Porcia Cato came from. Born around 70 BCE, Porcia grew up in a world that was changing fast. Rome was mighty but also full of conflict and prominent personalities. Porcia's dad was a guy named Cato the Younger. Now, he wasn't just any old Roman, he was a big deal. Cato was known for being super honest and sticking to his principles no matter what. He was a follower of Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches people to focus on what they can control and not worry much about the rest. Growing up with a dad like Cato meant Porcia wasn't raised like most Roman girls. Instead of just learning how to be a good wife, she was taught to think for herself and to be brave. Cato's ideas about honor and doing the right thing shaped how Porcia saw the world. Now you might be thinking, that's all well and good, but how does this relate to me? Well, here's the thing, the way we grow up and the people around us all leave a mark. Just like her dad's ideas influenced Porcia, we're all shaped by our upbringing. Think about it for a second, what values did you learn growing up? How have they affected the way you see the world now? Porcia took those Stoic ideas and ran with them. She learned that true strength comes from inside, not from what other people think of you. She figured out that you can't always control what happens, but you can control how you react to it. There's this great quote from Marcus Aurelius, another famous Stoic: "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts."
Porcia est saoule.
It was dyed with courage, integrity, and fierce independence. But don't think for a second that Porcia had it easy. Being a woman in ancient Rome was no walk in the park. Women didn't have many rights and were expected to do what they were told. But Porcia? She had other ideas. As we go through Porcia's story, remember how she used what she learned growing up to face some tough challenges. It's a reminder that no matter where we come from or what we're taught, we all have the power to shape our paths. So, are you ready to see how Porcia used her unique upbringing to shake things up in ancient Rome? Let's move on to the next chapter of her incredible story. First marriage and social expectations. Let's talk about marriage in ancient Rome. Trust me, it was nothing like what we see in romantic movies today. For women like Porcia, especially those from important families, marriage was more like a business deal than a love story. Imagine being a teenage girl and your dad tells you, "Hey, I've picked out a husband for you." That's what happened to Porcia. Her father, Cato the Younger, a big shot in Roman politics, arranged for her to marry Marcus Calpurnius Bibulus. Bibulus was older than Porcia and not precisely the life of the party. He was mainly known for being Julius Caesar's rival. Now you might wonder, couldn't Porcia say no? Well, not really. In those days, Roman dads had a lot of power over their daughters' lives. They could decide who their daughters married, and the girls had little say in it. But here's where it gets even crazier. This other guy, Quintus Hortensius, who was about 4 times older than Porcia, wanted to marry her too. Can you believe it? He even suggested that Bibulus could lend Porcia to him so she could have his children and then he'd give her back. It doesn't sound very good to us, but this was common back then. Women were often treated like they were there to have babies for powerful men. Luckily for Porcia, her dad and Bibulus said no to this weird arrangement, but it shows you how tough it was to be a woman in ancient Rome. They were expected to be good wives, have children, preferably boys, and support their husbands' careers. It was a lot of pressure. But here's where Porcia's story gets interesting. Despite all these crazy expectations, she didn't just sit around and do nothing. She used her position to learn about politics and philosophy. She watched, she listened, and she formed her own opinions. This quote from a Stoic philosopher named Epictetus fits here. He said, "Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself." For Porcia, these challenging circumstances revealed her strength and determination to be more than just somebody's wife. Take a moment to think about people's expectations for you in your life. It could be about your job, relationships, or how you should act. How do those expectations shape your choices? Have you ever felt like pushing back against what others think you should do? Porcia's life wasn't easy. While she was married to Bibulus, a considerable war broke out. Her father and husband were on one side, fighting against Julius Caesar. It must have been a scary and uncertain time for her. Sadly, Bibulus died in 48 BCE, leaving Porcia a widow. Then, just 2 years later, her father took his own life after being defeated in battle. Porcia had lost 2 of the most influential men in her life in a short time. But here's the thing about Porcia, she didn't let these tragedies break her. Instead, they seemed to make her stronger. She used her experiences to grow wiser and more determined. Porcia's story reminds us that we always have a choice. No matter what life throws at us, we can let difficult circumstances defeat us, or we can use them to become stronger and wiser. Porcia chose the latter, which made her stand out in history. In the next part of our story, we'll see how Porcia's experiences in her first marriage and her losses set the stage for a relationship that would change her life and Roman history. Are you ready to meet the man who became Porcia's true partner? Let's move on to the next chapter. Porcia and Brutus, a marriage of equals. Let's talk about a love story that would make even Shakespeare jealous. After the tough times Porcia went through, you'd think she might give up on the whole marriage thing, but life had other plans for her, which came in the form of a man named Marcus Junius Brutus. Brutus wasn't just any old Roman, he was intelligent and well respected. And like Porcia, he was really into philosophy, especially Stoicism. They had a lot in common, which was rare in marriages back then. You know how we talk about relationships being partnerships today? That's what Porcia and Brutus had, way before it was cool. They got married around 45 BCE, and it was clear from the start that this wasn't going to be a typical Roman marriage. Instead of just playing the role of a dutiful wife, Porcia was deeply involved in Brutus' life. They talked about politics, philosophy, and everything. Porcia wasn't afraid to share her opinions, and Brutus respected that. Here's a quote from Brutus himself: "You are the true glory of my life, the only person I trust with my innermost thoughts." It's amazing, right? In a world where women were often seen but not heard, Porcia's intelligence and strength earned her a place as Brutus' equal. But it wasn't just about words. Porcia showed her courage and dedication through her actions. There's this famous story about how she proved her strength to Brutus. When she found out that Brutus was involved in a plot to kill Julius Caesar, she wanted to show him that he could trust her with his secrets. So she wounded her own thigh with a knife to prove that she could endure pain and keep a secret. Talk about commitment. When Brutus found out what she'd done, he was deeply moved. It showed him that Porcia was someone he could rely on, no matter how tough things got. This act of self-inflicted pain might seem extreme to us today, but it was Porcia's way of proving that she was made of the same stuff as any man. Now, I'm not saying you should go out and hurt yourself to prove a point, but Porcia's story does make you think about how far we're willing to go for the people we care about. How do we show our commitment and support to our partners or friends? Porcia and Brutus' marriage shows that true partnership is about mutual respect and support. They were a team, facing the world together. Their relationship wasn't just about love, it was about shared goals and values. Porcia was not just a supportive wife, she was Brutus' confidant and advisor. It's a reminder that real partnerships are built on equality and mutual respect, where both people's voices matter. As we continue Porcia's story, remember how her strength and intelligence helped her build a marriage based on respect and equality. These are timeless values that we can all strive for in our relationships. In the next chapter, we'll dive into the dramatic events that would test Porcia and Brutus' partnership to the limit. Are you ready to see how they faced one of the biggest challenges in Roman history? Let's move on. The conspiracy against Caesar. Now, we're getting to the heart of the drama. Picture this: Rome is a city of whispers and shadows, where every corner could hold a secret. Julius Caesar is at the peak of his power, and not everyone is happy about it. Some think he's becoming too much like a king, which is a big no-no for a republic that prides itself on being free. Among those unhappy folks is Brutus, Porcia's husband. He's not just any conspirator, he's one of Caesar's trusted friends. Imagine the inner conflict he must have felt. But Brutus believes he's doing this for the greater good of Rome. Porcia, being his equal and confidant, knows all about the conspiracy. She's not just sitting on the sidelines, she's deeply involved, offering advice and support. Imagine the late-night talks they must have had, weighing the risks and the moral dilemmas. This wasn't just politics, it was a life-and-death decision. Here's the thing about Stoicism: it teaches you to focus on what you can control and accept what you can't. Porcia embodied this principle. She couldn't control the political storm around her, but she could control how she responded to it. She chose to be brave and stand by Brutus, even when it meant facing immense danger. One of the most telling moments is the night before the Ides of March, the day the conspirators planned to kill Caesar. Brutus is anxious, and Porcia can see it. She confronts him, reminding him of her loyalty and strength. She says, "I am your wife, not just in bed but in council. If you have a plan that needs secrecy, share it with me. I can keep a secret as well as any man." Brutus, deeply moved, reassures her and admits her into his innermost thoughts. This moment shows the deep trust and respect they had for each other. Porcia wasn't just a passive observer, she was an active participant in one of history's most significant events. Think about the trust in your relationships. Do you have someone you can share your deepest fears and plans with? Someone who stands by you, no matter what. Porcia and Brutus' partnership reminds us of the power of mutual respect and trust. On the Ides of March, 44 BCE, the plan goes into action. Caesar is assassinated in the Senate, and chaos erupts. Imagine Porcia waiting at home, knowing what's happening, yet unable to control the outcome. The anxiety and fear must have been overwhelming, but she remained stoic. She focused on what she could control, supporting Brutus and preparing for the uncertain future. The assassination of Caesar was a turning point in Roman history. It led to more turmoil and eventually the end of the Roman Republic. For Porcia and Brutus, it marked the beginning of their most challenging times. As we move to the next part of Porcia's story, remember how she handled herself during these tumultuous events. Her strength, loyalty, and stoic principles guided her through one of the darkest times in her life. How do you handle the storms in your life? Can you focus on what you can control and find strength in your values? Let's continue and see how Porcia faced the aftermath of Caesar's assassination and the trials that followed. Porcia's final act of stoic strength. The aftermath of Caesar's assassination was a whirlwind of chaos and danger. Brutus and the other conspirators quickly realized that their actions had plunged Rome into further turmoil rather than saving the Republic. They had to flee the city to save their lives. Imagine Porcia's situation. Her husband is now one of the most wanted men in Rome. The political climate is incredibly volatile, and the future is uncertain. Yet, she remains steadfast. She doesn't crumble under the pressure. Instead, she stands by Brutus, supporting him through these perilous times. Brutus and his fellow conspirators eventually left Rome and gathered forces in the provinces, preparing for the inevitable clash with the forces loyal to Caesar's heir, Octavian, and Mark Antony. During this period, Porcia stayed behind in Rome, maintaining their household and acting as a crucial link between Brutus and their supporters. Here's where Porcia's stoic strength shines through. Despite the overwhelming odds and the danger she faced, she continued to uphold her principles. She embodied the Stoic belief that one should focus on their duty and remain resilient, no matter the external circumstances. Plutarch, the ancient historian, gives us a poignant glimpse into Porcia's final days. She was deeply affected by the separation from Brutus and the looming danger. When she heard of the defeat and death of Brutus at the Battle of Philippi in 42 BCE, her grief was immeasurable. But even in her despair, she remained true to her Stoic beliefs. Porcia's final act was both tragic and powerful. According to the accounts, she chose to end her life rather than live under the tyranny she believed would follow. She reportedly swallowed hot coals, a testament to her incredible strength and determination to control her fate, even in death. Now, I'm not advocating for such extreme actions, but Porcia's story highlights an important lesson about inner strength and resilience. She faced unimaginable challenges and remained true to her values until the end. Her life and death remind us of the power of Stoicism in navigating life's toughest moments. Think about the challenges you face. How can you draw on your inner strength and values to navigate through them? How can you remain resilient and focused on what truly matters, even when the world seems to be falling apart? Porcia's story is a powerful reminder that true strength comes from within. It's about staying true to your principles and facing adversity with courage and dignity. As we reflect on her life, let's remember the lessons she taught us about resilience, loyalty, and the power of Stoicism. Porcia Cato's legacy lives on as a testament to the incredible strength of the human spirit, inspiring us to face our own challenges with the same unwavering resolve. So, what do you think of Porcia's story? How does her journey resonate with your own experiences? I'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections on this remarkable woman and the timeless lessons we can learn from her life.